Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Phil Show podcast with me, the host Philip Eikemans. Uh, Welcome to episode 9. After a long time of nothing, welcome back. I think it's time for another episode of the Phil Show podcast. Today, I want to be talking about something different, about a classical painter that I admire a lot and I think has, created a significant presence even after his death. And throughout these days, I think he's one of the greatest of all time. And of course, you have his competitors like Da Vinci, which was also the greatest of all time artist. But I wanted to talk about one of the other competitors, Michelangelo. I think he's one of the greatest artists I've seen of all time in terms of classical painters. And it was such a different time also back then. And there's so much that we can learn from someone's success, like even so long ago. And that's what I want to be talking about today. And so I'm going to be reading like a blog written by Stephanie Story. And it's called The 7 Keys to Michelangelo's Success. And I think there's a lot of valuable learnings that we can gain from it, especially one from a artist regarded as, one of the most successful, greatest artists of all time, which created one of the most amazing pieces of artwork till this day. And let's just figure out what we can learn from, his life, what he did to succeed. So I'm just going to start reading the blog, and then we're going to comment on it in between, see what we, evaluate piece by piece. So, for 76 years, from the age of 13 until his death at nearly 89, Michelangelo worked, but not a steady job. He did not keep a regular shop nor a single patron. He was an entrepreneur for his age, shopping his craft to various patrons, from bankers to city governments and 9 different popes, and cobbling together a living, a very good living, from myriad projects. His success at this is unprecedented. His name, work, and legacy have been revered for over 500 years. Now, guys, he's not just any artist, classical artist. He has done some significant shit. And in order to be called the greatest of all time, there's something behind that kind of work. Like work ethic, mindset, determination, will, intelligence, everything. There's something behind that, and we're going to be reading about it. But how did he do it? How did this notoriously headstrong artist with a terrible temper, not from a wealthy, connected family, become arguably the most successful entrepreneur in history? And what you can learn from Michelangelo's extraordinary success. Number 1, guys. Number 1. Creative marketing and branding. So, creative marketing and branding is not something uniquely something from this era, right? If you think about marketing and branding, you think about social media, but also in businesses, and this has existed before the internet, guys. Putting yourself out there has been existent since ages. Now, creative marketing and branding. You might not expect a list about a Renaissance artist to begin with a modern term like branding, but Michelangelo was perhaps the first PR expert. Though personal stories and biography written by Asconio Condivi, essentially the artist's autobiography, Michelangelo wove a personal myth about a talented kid who, with no real training nor support from his family, rose to the top of his career while overcoming impossible obstacles, obstinate popes, and attacks from rivals. He wasn't just any old artist. He was a one-of-a-kind genius touched by God. Some of his stories were true, some exaggerations, but he knew the power of a good story and used it to his advantage. Guys, so here's the thing. Many artists think okay, not let's remove the word artist. Many people think when they see a successful person, they see a person, they just see their success and think, oh, they must be lucky. There must just they must have been lucky, or must have been rich parents, or their circumstances are just been. It's not the same as me, because that means that you have an excuse that you can tell yourself, oh, I'm different. I'm not like him. He's like an unreachable. He's like a different kind of breed. Because if you realize that you can do the same as him, you're gonna self-doubt and think, what the hell have I been doing that I'm not reaching what I want to reach? So he didn't come from a rich family, or he was a storyteller. And so the takeaway that I get from number one is know how to storytell, guys. Know how to put yourself out there telling stories in order to captivate people. That's going to work in your favor. Number two, stay true to your voice while meeting the needs of patrons. Michelangelo gave his patrons what they wanted. His Sistine Chapel met the ecclesiastical needs of Pope Julius II. His Pietà met the spiritual needs of a French cardinal. His tombs in the Medici Chapel met the political needs of the Medici family. But Michelangelo never completely bowed to their demands. When Florence hired him to carve a David, they surely envisioned a young shepherd boy standing triumphantly over the severed head of Goliath. Not a colossal nude man staring apprehensively toward a battle not yet fought. But Michelangelo knew when to take a risk and listen to his gut, because it was his artistic vision that made him who he was. Patrons hired him because he had a strong voice, and we remembered him because he stayed true to his gut. Now, guys, this is so relatable, because a lot of people, a lot of artists in particular, succumb to the needs of their patrons, needs to their commissioners, and it just become, or you can say the same as people who are entertainers, like YouTubers, streamers, whatsoever. They become the slave to their customer. And what I think is, what I learned from this number two is, yes, you have to meet the demand, but you still can be true to your own voice. You can still be you. Don't sacrifice you for who you are completely and become a slave to who you're working for. Meet the demands, but still give that which, makes you. And also what makes you happy also. And also there's sometimes that like sometimes as an artist, some things, you have the artistic vision to know what makes something look good, even though sometimes you get a commission that, sounds kind of ridiculous, but then it's still your job. You have the artistic vision. You're the expert to know how to make that look good. And you don't have to completely sacrifice, that artistic vision and do something you don't like or don't stand behind it or you don't believe in just because you think you have to completely, do what you're told. Number three, focus. Michelangelo did not get distracted. He was so focused on his work, he often forgot to take his boots off for weeks at a time. Dude, that's... when he finally got around to taking them off, the skin of his feet came off with his boots. That's dedication. You know, I that's such an extreme version of me trying to forget how to drink water or to eat when I get so obsessed or focused doing something. When I'm creating something, sometimes I get so much in the zone that I just forget to drink or eat, that sometimes I just remember that I'm completely dehydrated or hungry for and I've been working the whole day without eating or drinking whatsoever, and that's like my less extreme version of it. But you know, his focus is admirable, even though well his skin comes off with his boots. That's kind of disgusting, but you know, like the blog says, that is dedication. He is kind of sacrificing, you know, a little bit of his, you know, his skin. He's damaging his body, but he is thinking about something bigger than himself, and that's when you know sometimes you just put in the work necessary. Michelangelo did not procrastinate. He did not put off his work until tomorrow. He worked hard every day. Some might call him a workaholic, but it was an addiction Michelangelo embraced. If he had lived during the era of cell phones and internet, I have no doubt he would have turned them off. He might have even thrown them out a window if they got in the way of his work. Well, I can stand behind that completely. Like a lack of focus really can limit and bring you back as a, you know, especially when you have big, ambitious goals and you have like you have a system that makes you productive, and there's some things you have to do, and you know, checking your email, checking your socials, getting distracted here and there is absolutely going to take away time from you know getting in the zone, which is your most productive state, your best creative state that you can have. Like athletes have this when they get in the zone, they perform the best. Artists have this when they get in the zone, they completely put all their energy into creating. And when you're constantly distracting yourself, I feel like that's taking away from you getting in the zone, but also chipping away of your time that you know the longer you have to keep doing something, the more your morale gets down, at least for my my experience. Whenever the longer I have to keep working on something, like little bit by little bit, that's when my morale and interest goes down and down and down. And so whenever I can just work on a big chunk of thing at once, that's when I get the most done, and that's when the results are the best. And so the same thing goes for here. Focus. It's the third point. Fourth point. Number four. Play to your strengths. Two of Michelangelo's biggest rivals were Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael, both of whom were charming and beloved, with courtier good looks and easy social graces. Michelangelo was none of those things. His nose had been broken in a childhood brawl. His bad temper was notorious. There was even a word created to describe his emotional, angry intensity, terribilità. And he was a stonecutter, considered a dirty, artisanal craft by his family and contemporaries. But Michelangelo never wasted time trying to work on his weakness or coarse manners. Instead, he focused on his strengths: hard work, ambition, and artistic skills. Eventually, people stopped caring about his brutish behavior and hired him anyway, because of his mad creative talent. By the way, I'm not telling you to cling to bad social manners unless you happen to have the talent of Michelangelo. I'm just suggesting you focus on what you're already good at, not try to compete with someone else on their home turf. I think that's a really good point. Many people really ponder on things. Keep like a lot of times people ponder on their like things about themselves that really don't matter. Or they care about opinions of others too much. And in the same sense, you're thinking about, you're comparing yourself in a way that it's not beneficial. Like, everyone has things that they're less good at. Like, and once you realize and accept and focus on what you're really good at, that's what when you're going to excel, because you're really specializing and focus on those things and going all in. And you're just, those things that you're not good at don't matter. Everyone has those. What makes someone good is when they focus on what they're good at and they double down and they just extrapolate and expand on that. It's just efficiency. And it doesn't matter that you have some things that are not 100% or not. It's considered good or whatever to other people, and you feel like you have to, work on them. Just focus on the strengths. I endorse that sentiment a lot. Number 5, take risks. Michelangelo rarely played it safe. He left an apprenticeship with the well-respected painter Ghirlandaio when he was barely 2 years into his training. Traipsed off to Rome without any promise of work, took jobs that had failed other great artists, and even though he was a self-proclaimed sculptor, not a painter, took a little job called frescoing the Sistine ceiling. That risk became one of the most famous pieces of art in all of history and secured him master status for the rest of his life. Safe is fine, but no one will remember safe. No one pays good money for safe. People pay good money for brilliance, and Michelangelo gave the world plenty of that. So, yes, I think taking risks, the upsides sometimes of taking risks are so much greater than staying where you're at and safe. Indeed, like the blog says, safe is no one will remember safe. People will remember an extreme amount of great skill. And sometimes you need to take risks to, like the blog said, he was not known as a painter. And in my opinion, I think the Sistine ceiling that he made is one of the greatest fucking work of all time. I mean, you have to imagine as a traditional painter, I suck at that. And let's just imagine traditional painting as is, right? It's kind of difficult on its own. There's a lot of, that you need to know. I feel it's like easier to get into digital than master classical traditional painting style. Imagine that, and then painting on a fucking ceiling that is like 40 meters high, tall. I don't know how high a church ceiling is, but we've all been in a church before. We know how fucking high those ceilings are, and great. It would be great if the ceilings were flat, but they aren't. They're like curved, and they have all kind of different complexities to them, and it makes them even harder to paint on. And Michelangelo did not even flinch. He took the job, and as hard as it fucking is to draw on a church ceiling, he didn't only manage to do a good job, he did a fucking amazing job making one of the greatest pieces of art I've ever seen. I don't know, this guy feels to me like inhuman. And there are some traits that you need to have to be inhuman like him. So I don't know if taking risks necessarily means that you're going to make the greatest art of all time. But taking risks is surely an opportunity to get there. It's something people don't realize, is that getting out of your taking risks is not necessarily doing stupid things. Is getting out of your comfort zone, because getting out of your comfort zone is going to put you into a how would I say it, into an optimized learning state of mind, and almost like a survival state of mind that's going to make your brain like learn like in a rapid state. In my experience, whenever I had to do things that I had no experience whatsoever in, and I had a critical deadline, and I like had to learn and perform and make good results, learning in a short amount of time with expectations to look good, dude, your mind goes to a survival mode that you didn't even know it was possible. So, from my own personal experience working in companies, like in my first ever game company I worked with, like I never really learned how to do 3D, and then imagine modeling, rigging, texturing, animating a character and making it look good and also adding a cape with physics that looked good and making it game ready within a week. And mind you, I've never really modeled besides a cube with some besides a cube before. That puts you into like a life or death situation. And dude, let me tell you, you're gonna do things you never thought you were possible. You never thought you were capable of doing. So taking risks is, like, from personal experience, I can tell you that is a great thing to do. It's scary, but it is going to put you places. It's going to open opportunities for sure. 6, aim higher than everyone else. A quote famously attributed to Michelangelo: "The greater danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but setting our aim too low and achieving our mark." This is how Michelangelo approached the world. Others said the botched Duccio stone was too difficult to carve. He carved a David out of it. When the Sistine Chapel started to mold, he didn't give up. Instead, he improved his design. When he was just 21 years old, before he carved anything of note, he promised in writing in the contract for the Pieta to carve the most beautiful work in marble that Rome has ever seen. He didn't just say he would carve a statue to the best of his ability, considering the time and money constraints. He said he would carve the most beautiful sculpture in Rome. Then he did it. Aim high, you might just hit your mark. Yeah, I'm not sure if I would ever be as insanely confident as Michelangelo at 20, especially at 20 years old, man. I'm 29 right now, and I'm not even that confident like he was at that age. But just putting it in contract before you know that you're going to make the most beautiful work Rome has ever seen is like, holy shit, dude. I would shit my pants if I ever wrote that. And but then you have to actually do it, because that's the scary part. You can say it and then fail, and then, that's one thing, but it's another thing to actually say it and then actually achieve it, than doing it. I think also putting a expectation or a certain expectation for yourself to achieve, how would I say it? Putting a expectation for yourself to achieve a high result is going to make you, because your brain sometimes has a habit to settle for comfortable, right? Your brain has that habit to, yeah, it's okay like this. It's good enough. We're like biologically designed to go with good enough, right? That's why there are some wacky things in our design, in our biology. It's because, scientists say this, is that our DNA is just designed, it's programmed to go for just good enough. And so our brain does that as well. But when you try to, you know, push your own expectations higher for yourself that you want to reach, you might just, be capable of doing it. Because just give yourself that pressure to achieve that high standard that you want to achieve. I'm sure you're able to do it. Now, I guess some people are not really can't handle stress all too well, but I guess it's a different conversation. So number 7, have a purpose. This is the last point, guys. Have a purpose. Michelangelo did not create art for himself. He created art for something larger than himself. For him, it was the glory of God and the Catholic Church that gave him the strength and determination to push himself harder than anyone else. You will never be remembered or a success if you're only working toward your goals or for your money. You must be working towards something larger than yourself. Only such a mission can give you the drive to succeed despite any obstacle. And that, my friends, is the biggest truth I've ever heard. And it kind of goes along with the previous point that we made, aim higher than everyone else. But having a purpose is really going to it's going to drive you to work hard. It's going to drive you to achieve that goal. It's going to drive you to push yourself. If you don't have that kind of purpose, if you lack any purpose, then what's the reason to do anything whatsoever? What's the reason to wake up? What's the reason to stand up? What's the reason to do anything if you don't have a purpose? Create that purpose that goes beyond yourself. That's why people have that. That's why, like Michelangelo, for him, it was the glory of God and the Catholic Church. Those things are divine. And if you have something like you believe in, like a divine thing, an entity, or a purpose, something, a life mission that you want to work towards, that's going to push you, drive you, motivate you to do things. Like in the same way we are motivated by hunger to hunt and chase food. Otherwise we fucking die, right? We're motivated to chase that fucking food, We're willing and driven to do more than we are capable of because we have that purpose. Create that purpose. If you don't have a reason to do anything, you won't do anything. And if that purpose is just just for me, I can do whatever I want, and this is good enough because it's just for me. It's just for me. Whatever. I'm good and I feel good enough about this. So yeah, I think this is good enough. If you have something watching over you with an expectation, and you have a purpose to fulfill, in your head, I can't fuck it up. I can't fuck it up. You can't. There's no alternative in your mind. This has to be done. If I don't do this, I will not achieve my life's mission. And then I'll die not achieving it. I can't fuck it up because this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I am put on this earth to do. This is my life mission. And so this is what I need to do. If I don't do it, I will not achieve it. Create that life mission, that purpose. Have it be God or your life mission, whatever it might be you believe in. Whatever it might be that you need to do to have a sense of purpose to achieve things in your life. That's all I'm going to say. And I think it's inspiring as fuck. Michelangelo was an inspiring dude. And I'm never going to forget the essence of what Michelangelo was. The same thing goes for Da Vinci, but Those are brilliant, genius minds that have put a legacy behind, and that's something to be, a legacy is something that you should also want to leave behind. What are you doing on this earth? Is what I would ask myself. So that's it, guys. That's it. That's all there is to it. I'm gonna see you guys on the next episode. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Give me any suggestions if you want. And that's it. See you in the next one. See ya.